Hi! So, welcome to our another math lesson. So, ang topic natin ngayon ay tungkol sa visualizing decimal numbers using models like blocks, grids, number lines, and money. And also, renaming decimal numbers to fractions whose denominators are factors of 10 and 100 and vice versa. So for our objective, of course, at the end of the video, you should be able to visualize decimal numbers using models like blocks, grids, number lines, and money to show the relationship to fraction, and also to rename decimal numbers to fractions, and fractions whose denominators are factors of 10 and 100 to decimals. So, ano ba yung decimal number? A decimal number is defined as a number whose whole number part and the fractional part is separated by a decimal point. The dot in a decimal number is called a decimal point and read as end. Decimals can be changed to fractions and vice versa. So now, alamin natin yung mga place values ng isang decimal numbers. So let's say we have 2.23. Okay, so this is what we call a decimal number. So itong digit sa left side before the decimal point is in the ones place value at ito rin yung whole number natin. And then yung dot na nakikita nyo ay ang tinatawag na decimal point. And then after decimal point, we have the tenths place value and then hundredths place value. So take note of the place value. Okay, so meron siyang THS sa dulo kasi after the decimal point na siya. Pero kapag yung place value natin is before the decimal point, hindi natin lalagyan ng THS yung decimal place or yung place value. Okay? So these are the decimal places or fractional part. So kapag binasa natin yan, it would be read as 2 and 23 hundredths. Bakit hundredths? Kasi hundredths yung last na decimal place ng ating decimal number. Okay, another example of a decimal number. So yan yung decimal point natin. Tenths place value, hundredths place value, and then it's read as 23 hundredths. So as you can see, wala tayong whole number. Okay, kasi 0 yung nakalagay. Okay, next. Examples of decimals and how they are read. So the place value of a decimal digit starts with tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. So let's say, ayan. Okay. So we have the digit 4 at the tenths place value. So ang basa dyan ay 4 tenths. Next. So yung tenths place value natin is 0. And then, yung digit 4 is placed under hundredths place value. So we read it as 4 hundredths. Next. So for our tenths place value, we have 2. And for our hundredths place value, we have 3. So kapag binasa natin yan, 23 hundredths. So how do we change decimal number into fraction? So to change a decimal number into a fraction, determine the place value of the last decimal digit and place it under the decimal numbers. So kunwari, we have 4 tenths. Sabi dyan, determine daw yung place value ng last decimal digit. Okay, so since yung 4 natin ay nakalagay sa tenths place value, so when we write it into a fraction, yung place value niya, which is tenths, yan yung gagawin nating denominator. So it becomes 4 over 10. Now for the second example, yung digit 4 natin ay nasa hundredths place value. So, we write it as 4 over 100. And then next example, meron ulit tayong digit na nakalagay sa hundredths place value. So, kapag sinulat natin siya into fraction, it becomes 23 over 100. Next, how do we visualize decimals using blocks? So, let's say we have 2 tenths. So, sabi dyan, to visualize decimals using blocks, draw blocks depending on the place value of the decimal digit. Then, shade the number indicated in the decimal number. So, una nating gagawin ay mag-draw ng blocks depende sa place value. So, since yung 2 natin, ang place value niya ay tenths, gagawa tayo ng 10 blocks. So, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then after that, sabi dyan, shade the number indicated in the decimal number. So, ano ba yung number or digit natin dyan? We have 2. So, magsha-shade tayo ng 2 blocks. 1, 2. And then that's it. So, ganyan mag-visualize ng decimals using blocks. Okay, another example, we have 6 tenths. So, once again, determine the place value, which is tenths. And then, let's draw 10 blocks. And then, determine or shade the digit indicated. So, we have digit 6. So, that means mag-shade tayo or magko-cross out tayo ng 6 blocks. So, let's cross out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So, ganyan mag-visualize ng decimals using blocks. Now, how about visualizing decimals using grids? So, let's say we have 24 hundredths. So, sabi dyan, to visualize decimals using grids, draw a grid depending on the place value of the decimal digits. Then, shade the number indicated in the decimal number. So, una, gagawa muna tayo ng grid depending on the place value. So, we have tenths and then hundredths. So, dapat yung grid natin ay merong ayan, 100 na boxes. Okay, and then shade the number indicated. So, we have 24. So, ang isi-shade natin ay 24 boxes. Okay. So, now, we have already visualized decimals using grids. Okay. Next, how about 4 hundredths? So, once again, determine natin yung place value. So, we have hundreds. And then, let's draw the grid. And then, shade the indicated digit, which is 4. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's up to you kahit saan nyo i-shade dyan. Bahala kayo as long as susundin ninyo yung digit na nakalagay doon sa decimal number. Next, visualizing decimals using number lines. So, let's say we have 4 tenths. So, to visualize decimals using number line, draw a line and divide it into the place value of the decimal digit by using bars. Then, shade the decimal indicated in the decimal number. So, since we have 4 under tenths place value, first, mag-draw tayo ng line, and then, divide natin siya sa 10. Bakit 10? Kasi, ang place value ng digit natin is tenths. And then, after that, shade natin yung digit indicated in the decimal number, which is 4. Okay. So, shade natin siya. Ayan. So, this is the way how we visualize decimals using number line. Okay, next. Changing fractions to decimal numbers whose denominators are factors of 10 and 100. So, ngayon naman baliktad. Yung fraction, gagawin naman nating decimal number. So, kung kanina, ginawa natin yung decimal na maging fraction, ito naman is yung kabaliktaran. So, let's say we have 2/10 or 2/10. So, to change fractions to decimals, divide the numerator to its denominator. So, we are going to divide 2 by 10. So, since yung 2 ay small digit, hindi natin siya pwedeng i-divide sa 10, mag-a-add tayo ng 0. Pero take note na before ka mag-add ng 0, you should put decimal point at the quotient. So, kagaya nung ginawa ko. Ayan. And then, pwede na tayo mag-divide. So, 20 divided by 10 is 2. And then, place your answer after the decimal point. And then, 2 times 10 is 20. And then, 20 minus 20 is 0. So, now, we already have a decimal number. So, 2/10 is equal to 2/10. Or, we have another way to change fractions to decimal. Sabi dyan, move 1 or 2 decimal places from right to left depending on the number of zeros there are in the denominator. So let's say we still have 2/10 as our example. So move 2 or 1 decimal places from right to left. Depende raw kung ilan yung zero. So dito sa example natin, meron tayong isang 0 sa 10. So mag-move tayo ng 1 decimal place. Ayan. And then, add decimal number or decimal point. And then, cancel natin yung denominator. There you go. So, paano pag 2/100 naman? So, we have 2 zeros. So, that means we are going to move 2 decimal places from right to left. So, we have 1, 2. And then, add decimal point. So, anong gagawin natin dun sa decimal place na walang laman? Maglalagay tayo ng 0. And then, cancel the denominator. So, the answer is 200. Okay, next. What if we have 25/100? So, once again, mag-move tayo ng 1 or 2 decimal places, depende kung ilan yung zero sa denominator. So, in this case, since meron tayong dalawang zero sa 100, mag-move tayo ng 2 decimal places from right to left. So, let's move 1, 2, and then add decimal point. And then cancel the denominator. And the answer is 25/100. Okay, now try to answer the activity. Express the following fractions as decimals and vice versa. So 4/10 is equal to, correct. Next, 7/100. The answer is correct. Next, we have 0.56 or 56/100. Write it in decimal or in fraction as 56/100. Next, we have 4/100. Okay, when written in fraction, it becomes 4/100. And lastly, 8/10. The answer is 8/10 or 8/10. Okay, so now you may proceed answering your module, and thank you for watching this video.